Dude, you gotta hear this.
Go ahead. I think I want to hear this.
Sports Daily is on KFH.
Your chance to win a trip to see Guns N' Roses at a U.S. stop of your choice on their 2023 World Tour, including round-trip airfare, a 2-night hotel stay, a pair of tickets, and a $200 gift card. Go to KFHradio.com to enter for the chance to win this national contest. Get tickets now at livenation.com. All right, we got some calls here. We got everybody excited on this golf conversation. This is a total, left field thing that's happened here today, but we like it. Let's go to Mike first on the line. Mike, welcome in on the IHOP hotline, 869-1240. I should say David, welcome in on the IHOP hotline. What's on your mind, David?
Yeah, there's a tournament we play at Pine Bay down here at 63rd and Hydraulic, and it's called a 3-club golf tournament. So you pick the 2 clubs that you like, and one of them's got to be a putter. So it's got a nice, big, long par 5, and it also has the island hole. So it's about 140 yards to an island. So you got to decide what iron you like or whatever, but you play the entire 9 holes. Pretty challenging. Drink, have fun or whatever. And then he always set it up to where whoever won it would get like a couple free rounds, and everybody got a sleeve of balls or whatever. It's a great tournament, but it's just challenging because you only get to select 3 clubs, and you play those 9 holes. So if you're a big hitter, you want to take your driver, you might be hurting a little bit on the short holes.
I love that. I love that, David. And you know what?
Yeah,
on top of that,
that's good.
It's been a long time since I played Pine Bay. Like I played it maybe 10 years ago.
I have not played it.
So the Island Green down there in Derby, I remember. So former host of Sports Daily, Bruce Hurdle, like a long time ago, he did a ranking of the top golf holes in the Wichita Metro, and that Island Green at Pine Bay made the list. That's a fun course to play. That would be a fun tournament to do.
Yeah, that's a good idea. It reminds me, what is it, 10 Cup? Is it 10 Cup where he's got to play with one club? Mike, we appreciate the idea and the call. I had an uncle who – David, why do I keep saying Mike? David, thank you for the call. I had an uncle who was just an unbelievable athlete, and he was that kind of golfer where he would go – I used to watch him win so much money, just sandbagging guys back. I'll play the whole I'll take my 7-iron only and just crush them. And like that kind of stuff, I'm always like mesmerized by those sorts of, again, like what breaks like the traditions and like, makes it the everyman game. I think that's what makes golf great. All right, let's check in with Earl. Earl, what's up? IHOP hotline 869-1240.
Hey, just to let you know, they only call it golf because all the other 4-letter words were taken. But to get your juices flowing for the everyman, man, you need to go to a mini golf course. Just for the evening, line everybody up there, little putt-putt, and that way, guys bring, you got to get a new putter because the old one didn't float. But the best idea is a little putt-putt or frisbee golf. Make it the everyman.
Oh, now,
thing.
Earl, now hang on a minute. No.
Cutting you off there. Not doing that.
Yeah, Earl, Earl, you're too rock and roll for frisbee golf, for frolf, right? Like, you're way too rock and roll for frolf. Like, unless you're going to, like, break out the, I don't know, love circle and drum line or whatever. Like, frolf, now, come on, Earl. We're
going to play hacky sack afterwards? What are we doing here?
Okay, because I'm not a golfer. My time spent outdoors is not with a pitching wedge. It's pitching a jig to heavy cover. So I'm not a golfer. So when you're saying everyman, for me, and I had no idea, frisbee golf is thought of like the hippie letter sport. No idea that that's what it was. But it seemed like more people would get involved. You could throw a frisbee, and I could see that. I mean, but, hey, mini golf, though. Mini golf. I mean, you can have the whole place for a night, line up, charity deal, make it, a little putt-putt, baby. Yeah, then no one gets all crazy with the rules, and I think that would be good time. So just trying to think out of the box for you from a non-golfer.
Hey, Earl.
Yes.
Jad here. I just got to say, I am a guy that played golf, and I'm right there with you. I played golf in high school. I played tournaments, that sort of thing. I'm right there with you. I think disc or mini golf, perfect. Really perfect.
That's how we get us all involved. But, we'd rather hey, we can do a fishing tournament, man. We go out to El Dorado. They do it all the time. All right. Take care, guys.
I can catch perch. I can catch perch all day with hot dogs.
I'll let Earl and Jad have a nice little date night going and playing frolf. That's fine. You guys can enjoy that. Have yourselves a blast. Go get frozen yogurt afterwards if you want.
It's something. By the way, before we switch to this NCAA topic, and Earl, who's our resident rock and roll expert, I saw that Dolly Parton starting to drop some of her rock and roll albums. She collaborated with Slash and then another guy I've never heard of on a song. I was trying to check it out. I can't wait for Dolly's rock album. Dolly is an angel, by the way, and the best. So I will have Earl break down her rock and roll album when that happens. All right, 869-1240. Tommy, the NCAA. So what has this out there, and this is probably a topic that we need to spend more time on. But for now, Charlie Baker, the new president, has hired a company. They're going to pay a whole bunch of money for somebody to come in and basically top to bottom evaluate the NCAA and identify what could make it better. It's interesting because, like, if you read this story from Dennis Dodd, most of the feedback from administrators is like, thank goodness and finally. But it's because they feel like the NCAA could be making more money than it does, not as much as, trying to solve like NIL and stuff. But a lot of the feedback on it is, why isn't the NCAA more aggressive in trying to, make the best of these situations? If you took away the men's basketball tournament, I think, which is like 90% or something insane of the revenue driver for the NCAA. But when you see the NCAA tournament doing that, like, how does the NCAA not take advantage of everything else and really drive home the ability to make money? And now especially, like, if you're starting over, if you've got a chance to do it, top priority for Tommy Castor with the NCAA is what?
Completely shut it down. I mean, it's so irrelevant. It's irrelevant now.
See, but it's not irrelevant because you do have to have an organizational body to handle things.
Do you?
Like postseasons? How are you going to do March Madness?
Can't the conferences plan their own tournament?
Well, the conferences plan their tournaments, but they don't plan something like March Madness.
Can't you get a committee of the commissioners of the respective conferences to put together their own tournament? Do they have to have oversight?
That's kind of what the NCAA is. I mean, that's sort of what the NCAA is. I mean, it is sort of a committee.
But even a loose affiliation committee of commissioners.
See, I disagree. I think the NCAA, if done right, is a necessary and could be very beneficial. I think if the NCAA would get out of its own way in trying to prevent players from making money, it could do a lot of really positive things for the sports. Number one, embrace these players making money. Partner with them. Everybody can benefit more if everybody's working toward the same goal, not pushing against each other all the time. That would be the top priority for me. If you can figure out a way to make NIL good for everybody involved, then everybody's going to benefit. Now, revenue sharing is the elephant in the room to me, that makes that difficult because the NCAA will never want to give that up. But man, if you could collectively work, think about the pro sports, right? Yeah, you have collective bargaining and there's labor disputes and all that stuff. But in the end, everybody's benefiting more because of it, right? So figure out how to do that if you're the NCAA. Then maybe you can go in and develop more partnerships and sponsorship, opportunities and all of these other avenues and platforms that you could do. Like, if I'm that, and I hope it does, I hope this firm comes in and says what every court has said, like, this model doesn't work. It's backwards. Like, why aren't we working together? Why are players and it's not even the schools anymore. That's the crazy part, Tommy. At least it doesn't feel that way to me. Like, it feels like schools and players are beginning to work together through NIL, but the NCAA's not. And conferences are signing these deals and like all this stuff's going through. How do you most profit for everybody? Why on earth has it taken us this long to get to a college football playoff? If you see what March Madness does, how in the world has it taken so long to get to a playoff system in football, which is your greatest revenue driver? Because if March Madness is worth $1 billion, Tommy, what is a 16-team football playoff worth? $3 billion? Like,
a lot of money. A lot of money. The NCAA can't get out of its own way, and they never have been able to. Like, it's been forever an institution that is set in its own ways. They've dug their heels into the ground. Mark Emmert did that his entire tenure as the president of the NCAA, was never willing to budge on anything. Charlie Baker's come in, and I think there was some optimism early on that he might be a little bit more willing to do that. I'm not really so sure that's going to be the case with Charlie Baker leading the NCAA now. In my mind, I think that a lot of this, I mean, and I know that this has been tossed around before. I don't think that you're going to really see substantial change, and you're talking about revenue sharing and all of that, until the players are able to unionize. And I don't know if that will ever happen. And I don't know if that's something that would even be the right thing to do. But if you want to talk about revenue sharing as a potential on the table, that's really the only way that I think that conversation can ever happen.
I don't think that's a good idea. I hope it doesn't ever get to that point, because I think it would be pretty catastrophic. I don't think it needs to, and the problem with it to me is there's so much of a difference between sports and levels, like between FBS and FCS. Like, trying to unionize college athletes to me is not going to go.
But don't you think that the NCAA and the member institutions are walking a really fine line? And I know NIL has helped solve this, but they're walking a really fine line where all it would take, honestly, would be all of the Division I basketball players to come together and say, we're not playing. We're not playing. We're walking out. I don't think they would ever do that. I don't know. Who knows? I think NIL softens the blow a little bit, but until there's this, like, hey, you're making all this money off our backs, we want some of the piece of the pie from these media rights deals. I don't know. I mean, that could be a possibility.
It's why it's always been mind-numbing to me that the NCAA doesn't work more hand-in-hand, because if that's the alternative, everybody loses, right? Like, and I do think we'll get there. And I think that, again, I think schools are figuring out ways to do this well. But again, there's always roadblocks, and it's always like the NCAA is pushing the brakes hard, and sometimes they're for legitimate reasons. But
there's
again,
been conversations that I've heard in reporting that, you know, there would be benefits to media rights deals where a portion of that money is earmarked and allocated for quote unquote salaries for players. And so some of that media rights deal, the money comes in to the member schools. There's a salary cap. They set aside that money. Every school gets a piece of the pie for the express purpose of paying and compensating the players.
Yep. And it doesn't, and at that point, right, then you don't get, if the players were to unionize and try and that's always the issue, right? Like, everybody wants the same thing, and that's just not reality in college athletics, because everybody doesn't bring the same value, and then you get into an open market. So it would just be, it doesn't need to get to that, right? Like, that's the point for me. Like, if you're the NCAA, like, start over and figure out how you can work together, because ultimately that's going to create more money for you anyway. Like, you might have to share some of it, but you've got more to make. That's for me what the NCAA's got to do, because if they continue to be this stubborn, they're going to lose every court battle. We already know that. They do every time. Like, you can't let it get to that point, because it doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't jive with the way our society works. So what can you do to make that not happen and help everybody out? We're making progress. Look, I bash on this all the time. NIL, all this stuff. It has been so much better to me lately than it was 6-7 years ago. So there's progress being made, but continue that. Don't dig in and try and stop the progress. Embrace it and make it better. 869-1240 is the number to call. Let's give away, you know what? Let's give away another pair of tickets. I'm excited about this. Fast X over at Boulevard Town West Theaters. if you want to get a sneak preview on May 18th, we've got some tickets for you. Another pair of tickets to Fast X. It's the next Fast and Furious movie, which means it's going to be highly entertaining, I'm sure. Fast cars, explosions, all the good stuff. 869-1240 to the IHOP hotline. Jad will get us a pair of winners there. We'll come back with more Sports Daily after this.
In America, it's estimated that 4% of people in prison are actually innocent.
When I saw them for the very first time, like I knew who my jury gonna be doing trial. To be honest, I knew I lost then.
In 2002, the state of Georgia found Kerry guilty for his alleged involvement in a vicious rape. Only a small percentage of those people have their convictions overturned.
As one great justice said many years ago, we don't find our witnesses from church pews.
What series of events led to Kerry's wrongful conviction? Could this happen to anyone? What finally convinced the courts to overturn his conviction? From Zapier, in partnership with the Georgia Innocence Project, this is The 4%. Listen anywhere you get your podcasts or visit zapier.com/resources/podcasts to learn more.